We're aliens.
Make room at the table. You know, Terry, everyone in the neighborhood hates us.
You boys want some peanut butter cookies?
Oh, she's threatening us. I'm freaking out.
Yeah, I'm freaking out too. More cartoons.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and more importantly, I want me some more Justin Roiland, question mark, is that right?
That's right. Justin Roiland.
That's right.
Justin Roiland.
That's his new Hulu show, Solar Opposites. It seems like it's about a family of aliens living on Earth, created by Rick and Morty's Justin Roiland. That's coming to Hulu this week, May 8th.
Oh my God, just around the corner.
That's right.
You know who's excited about that?
Who?
Nicole Lee from Engadget, who's our guest on today's show.
Huzzah!
Hello! I am excited about it. That sounds awesome.
Did you end up watching Rick and Morty last night? The premiere?
Who, me? No.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry.
I have thoughts.
Okay.
And we will get to those thoughts a little later in the show. But first, let's get to our primary target. Folks, here on Cordkillers, we have followed the fight between theaters and Netflix and others over the 90-day window. That's the time that the big theater chains require a movie to be made available exclusively in theaters in order for them to agree to show it. That's why you don't see Netflix movies in the theaters from AMC or Regal. They want that 90-day exclusive. We've also covered the fact that studios have been releasing movies straight to digital lately, in some cases, because, well, theaters are closed, right? So they want to release some movies they put off, but other movies they've been putting out straight to digital. Theaters are, meanwhile, trying to figure out how not to go out of business right now while they can't make any money. AMC, for instance, recently took on $500 million in debt to keep it going into the middle of summer and delayed filing its Q1 financial reports until June 24th. So with all this pressure, with all this experimentation, with everybody self-isolating last week, AMC Entertainment and NBC Universal couldn't take it anymore and got in a big public fight. Started Tuesday when Wall Street Journal ran an article titled "Trolls World Tour Breaks Digital Records and Charts a New Path for Hollywood." Now, the big news was that Trolls World Tour at that point had made $100 million in 3 weeks of digital sales, surpassing the first Troll movie's theatrical revenue. But what set off AMC was a quote from NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell, quote, "As soon as theaters reopen, we expect to release movies on both formats." This did not say Universal would violate the 90-day window, but it also didn't say they wouldn't. AMC Theaters chairman and CEO Adam Aron then wrote a letter to Universal saying, effective immediately, AMC will no longer play any Universal movies in any of our theaters in the United States, Europe, or the Middle East. Of course, they're not showing anybody's movies right now, but they mean when the movies come back, yours won't be among them. Also, Aron wrote, "This is not some hollow or ill-considered threat. Incidentally, this policy is not aimed solely at Universal out of pique or to be punitive in any way. It also extends to any movie maker who unilaterally abandons current windowing practices absent good faith negotiations between us, so that they as distributor and we as exhibitor both benefit and neither are hurt from such changes."
So reassuring.
So responding to a little bit of vagary with a ban hammer and putting all the other studios on notice that they better not do the same thing. That evening, Universal responded in a statement saying, "We absolutely believe in the theatrical experience and have made no statement to the contrary. As we stated earlier, going forward, we expect to release future films directly to theaters, as well as on PVOD when that distribution outlet makes sense." Still doesn't confirm that they'll respect the 90-day window, but also doesn't say they won't. Regal Cinemas owner Cineworld then chimed in saying it will not show films that fail to respect the theatrical window. And the Union of International Cinemas said that success of Trolls should not be used as a reference point to redesign the business model, but they didn't ban Universal. And that brings us to last Thursday when on the Comcast earnings call, Jeff Shell said, "I would expect that consumers will return to theaters and we will be part of that. I also would expect premium video on demand is going to be part of that offering in some way. It's not going to be a replacement, but it will be a complementary element. And we're just going to have to see how long that takes and where it takes us. So they got their feelings out. They got their positions leveraged. They're ready to negotiate. Everybody in the industry figures this is going to all be figured out by the time theaters will be accepting Fast and Furious next year. But theaters are beginning to reopen. Some theaters in Texas open this weekend. The Czech Republic will open its theaters May 11th. Norway, May 7th. Germany says July. Ireland, August 10th. In China, the executive vice minister of the Central Propaganda Department and the director of the National Film Administration, that's one person, said it is necessary to maintain the window period rules of cinema release, which is interesting because the window in China varies by release. It's around 28 days. They don't have the same stolid 90 days that we have here in the United States. My guess is Universal and AMC are going to figure this out before it matters. But will it matter? Are you going to go to the theater? Are they fighting about nothing? A Reuters Ipsos poll found that of people who follow sports, arts, and entertainment avidly, 4 out of 10 said they will return to sports, amusement parks, entertainment venues, theaters as soon as they open. Another 4 out of 10 said they'd wait for a vaccine. They'd go back once they were sure they could get cured of COVID-19. And a final 2 out of the 10 said they didn't know or they might never go back. Now, these are people who were going, right? They threw out all the people like, yeah, never do that anyway. So the question then becomes, theaters are open, Brian, in your area. Are you going to go?
There is kind of a double aspect to this conundrum because it's kind of irrelevant whether or not I would go because it's not up to me. It's up to the boss. And Bonnie has made it clear that we will not be going to any restaurant. I am not allowed to go to any of the now opened bars, and I most certainly will not be seeing any movies in a movie theater. So economists talk about there are certain experiments that are either impossible or unethical to do, like human experimentation or whatever. So they talk about natural experiments where maybe there's 2 different educational policies in 2 different zip codes. And because there's 2 different policies, they're able to A/B test. This is a fascinating natural experiment that never in a million years would ever happen if it weren't for this global pandemic. There's no way anybody would get away with, I mean, to be honest, let's say the pandemic wasn't happening and Universal just out of nowhere announced that they're going to release Trolls on VOD. The only thing that would be different is they wouldn't wait for the announcement of it being a massive success for the theaters to say no more Universal movies. They would have said that before the movie even came out when the announcement happened.
That would have been exactly. That was the first thing they said. Nicole, how do you feel about this?
There's so many caveats. I will say that for me, if the theaters are open now, no way. Like there's no way. Like I think for me, based on my own personal feelings about the coronavirus and all that, I probably will lean towards like I will wait for a vaccine, get the vaccine before even being in a crowd of people.
Well, one option that wasn't listed that I'd be really curious is one of the options not listed is what if you get it and get over it? That's not really on there. Would you go then?
Even then, I feel like I need somebody because I feel like that's kind of a question mark I have in my mind because I don't think the antibody thing, I don't think that's a foolproof. Like, I don't think that's 100%.
We don't know.
Like
Sure.
Yeah. But so I don't know if we don't know yet whether that's really effective or not. So until I'm sure and until I have the vaccine and until we get the okay from public health officials, that kind of thing, will I be comfortable being in a large crowd of people? Like I was just telling my husband the other day, there is no way I'm going to an E3 or a CES or whatever if this hasn't been resolved. Like there's just no way I'm going to be able to go to any of those things.
Also, allow me to elaborate because a bunch of people in the chat are saying, we don't know if immunity will happen after you get it. That wasn't the question. The question was whether or not Nicole Lee would go after being sick with the thing. And Nicole Lee knows whether or not Nicole Lee would go. So let's just back that up right now.
I honestly don't, because there's so many unknowns about this whole thing and whether you can get reinfected or whatever it is. I don't know. And because I don't know, I don't want to be like, roll the dice, like that's not what I'm going to
I'll be honest. And I have not discussed this with the person in the next room over right now, who hopefully isn't listening. I would want to go. As soon as they reopen them, I would mask up, I'd glove up, I'd have my hand sanitizer, I'd be very watchful, but I would want to see what it's like. I would want to go as much to see the other people and feel like, who else is here? Is it all people like me who just want to see who else is here? Or are there people who are just like, yeah, I'm fine, not a problem. Who would want to go to a theater to see a movie when there's this much uncertainty? I'm very curious.
Can I point out something really interesting that you said that I had a version of this discussion on Friday that we talked about on the Night Attack Happy Hour? The important word you said, you didn't say you would go. You said you would want to go. And I, too, would want to
very
go.
Important.
Whether or not I would go is a very different thing. Whether or not I'd go in a freaking
Once
space
I've stepped outside and I'm about to get in the car, would I go, maybe this is a stupid idea?
I mean, how, how expensive is a divorce in California or Texas or whatever,
Yeah. Right.
And
like I said, I haven't even talked it over. I don't know.
I mean, part of the theater going experience for me is the popcorn, it's the drink. It's like eating something while you're watching something. And like your mouth, I mean, I just don't see myself being in a theater watching something with my mask on. It's not worth it for me to be in that situation.
I mean, that's a really good point. How do you pop popcorn in your mouth with a mask on?
You can't do it,
Buy stock in beer crazy straws that just sort of fold out from underneath your mask, swing around thrice, and go into a pint.
We have just begun to see the innovation of how to circumvent your mask for things you do want to allow in without compromising your protection. We're kind of circling around the main issue here, which is theaters are scared. Partly because they don't want the big studios to get the idea that they can start hammering away at that window. We've known that before, but they're also scared because they don't know when people will come back to the theater. It's not about lockdown. Lockdown being released is not going to make people go back to the theater. It's probably the vaccine. And I feel like that's the best thing. We're like, okay, now theaters will start to feel like people will show up. And how many theaters are going to make it that long? Without closing down?
Here's the real interesting aspect to it. Theaters are in a unique position because they have fully died, and come back from the dead. In the 1950s, when TVs were going crazy, theaters closed up, boarded up shop, became, CD X-rated movie joints and garbage experiences. And it wasn't until the end of the 20th century that we started to get the premium movie cinema experience that we have nowadays. So that is in living memory for theaters. So they have cause to be afraid because they know what it looks like to suffer a death and try to come back.
Do you think the art house experience will continue? Like if, let's say, AMC shuts down and Regal shuts down, do you think something like an Alamo will live on because of the hardcore fans or whatever it is?
We've talked about some of the possibilities. I don't know. Alamo's in a weird place because I don't know that the exclusives, I mean, they already are doing indie stuff, but I think they're going to get squeezed pretty hard. I think we talked about, my current theory is that everything's just going to turn up the contrast. Anything that was in the mushy middle, anything that's a romantic comedy, anything that's a light comedy, anything that's not an absolute blockbuster is going to go straight to direct video, whereas only the blockbusters will go. But we're going to see more versions of the blockbusters, including, we've talked before, like already you can see the 3D version or the 2D version. I think that we'll start seeing, or you could go see the director's extended cut that will only be in theaters for 1 week or whatever on release.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the key to all of this is in something Aaron wrote in his letter to Universal. He said, I'm trying to find it, absent good faith negotiations between us so that they as distributor and we as exhibitor both benefit. I feel like that is secret code for we'll let you break the 90-day window and go straight to digital if we get money out of it.
If you come to the table with an open mind.
If we get a cut, if you're going to distribute among your theaters like a portion of your digital revenue, then we might lighten up, especially if you give us some of that money now while we can't show your movie. I mean, I'm not saying there's any motivation for the studios to do that, but that's one of the things I'd be pushing for with AMC is, hey, you want a flexible window like China has? We can do that. Start giving us a percentage of the Trolls revenue today.
I'll tell you
and
what.
Then we'll make that happen.
That sounds crazy, but not as crazy as MoviePass. And MoviePass went a very long time with a very insane business model.
And it was the exact same one as give us money for nothing.
Exactly. And they did. They got a lot of free money for nothing.
It's not money for nothing, though, because what the theaters are saying is we have leverage over you because we still are a large part of your revenue, especially for blockbusters. If you want to have a more malleable, flexible arrangement with us, we can do that. You got to pay us off. And the price to pay us off for that is a percentage of your digital revenues. I don't know. I'm just making all this up. I have no idea. I'll tell you what,
I wouldn't even be surprised if in behind the scenes negotiations, they were able to work out some sort of, international trade debt agreement where it's like, hey, you're going to keep us afloat for the next 2 years. But then after 4 years from now, when we get to the flush times, we're going to even it out. You're going to get a bigger percentage of everything, and you'll be happy down the road. Yeah,
I can see a deal structured where it says you will respect a 90-day exclusivity for all movies, or pay this window amendment fee, and the window amendment fee will be calculated in subparagraph amendment C, and then that's where it says the window amendment fee will be calculated based on digital revenues of those in the window. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you're not Universal, do you think that there's an opportunity here to move in and cozy up with AMC and start to score a sweetheart deal?
Yeah, although I feel like the play being made is the studios are looking at Universal. Because remember, Universal was very cagey. They could have very early on said like, oh, no, we didn't mean simultaneous. We meant we'll be doing some VOD and we'll be doing the 90-day window. And they could have nipped that whole thing in the bud right there. But they didn't say that ever. And I think that's because they are trying to push this issue and gain and use the leverage they have. So I imagine the other studios are just watching Universal and going like, "I'll hold your beer. You go do that."
Well, and this is all international politics, right? It's like it doesn't matter what words you use. What matters is what credible threats and what actions you take. And AMC, it sounds like AMC is the petty party here, but they don't have many moves to make. They have to make the credible threat of like, no, you're straight up out. Not you're gonna be out. You're out.
We just barely figured out how to survive into the summer. Don't you be messing with our model right now.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thankfully, we operate on a different model here at Cordkillers.
Doggone right, man. 100%. This is our promise to you. Cordkillers will never, ever be shown at an AMC theater. That's right. Put that in a press release. We refuse to be shown in an AMC theater because we are loud, live, and independent thanks to the 1,000 plus patrons who keep us afloat at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Thank you, guys. Just $1 an episode, especially in these trying times, makes all the difference in the world to us. We cannot thank you enough.
Although AMC is welcome to give us free tickets anytime they want. But we can afford to buy them thanks to the folks at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. So let's go to the other side of this, right? The one side is like, hey, are people ever going back to the theaters? The other side is, hey, you know what people are doing? Streaming TV at home. Convergence Research Group estimates 36% of U.S. homes didn't pay for traditional cable TV by the end of 2019. That was back when people were free to go to the theaters or leave their homes anytime they wanted. They estimate that by the end of this year, 42% of U.S. homes won't pay for traditional cable, and that will become a majority at 54% by 2022. Now, cable companies, don't weep for them. They're going to be fine because they run all the large internet providers that you need to get the over-the-top stuff into your house. Cable TV networks are the one a little more on the bubble because they have to jumpstart their own streaming services. That's why you're seeing HBO Max, Peacock, Disney Plus, etc. But there's the back end too. Disney wisely bought BAMTech years ago and therefore operates one of the most reliable back end services for themselves and other companies. And Warner Media just bought The Widget Company. It's a Dutch firm that creates cross-platform tech for your over-the-top and TV everywhere apps. In other words, they make it easy to use a service from your console, your TV, or your phone. So that's going to help Warner Media with all of their not only network apps, but HBO Max and more. It looks like, Brian, if we are all still around in 2022, we will be able to declare that long wondered time when there will be more cord cutters than not.
It's so wild for us to even, 5-6 years ago, as we were watching all the cable companies lie through their faces saying, no, it's fine. We're doing better than ever. Look at our numbers.
It's just the housing market. Remember that one?
That's right. And we said back then, it's like, no. They're lying through their face because their intention is to become dumb pipes. Their job is to just have one more quarter of decent growth or, make their investors happy. We're there, man. Like, we're watching them gently parachute to the ground. And you're right. It's only the creators that are scrambling, not so much for distribution so much as mind share in the audiences out there. They're all trying to figure out whether or not they're better off going it alone or consolidating into giant mega groups. It's weird that we were right for so long.
I sometimes forget that we've been saying, no, it's real. It's just going to take a while. It's going to be, 2020 before this sort of thing happens. And here we are. Nicole, have you been riding this train along with us the whole time?
I was only really a cord cutter, I think, like for 1 or 2 years ish, kind of, sort of. But I wonder if teen was almost the watershed year almost. You have your Disney Plus, you have the announcement of HBO Max and Peacock, and I don't know how many other services I am missing from that list.
It definitely felt like a tipping point for sure. I agree.
Yeah. So I feel like, the tipping point is kind of here. And you're kind of deciding right now, like, oh, you mean I can get all this much more than I can get on my cable service? God, duh, I can, no brainer, like Disney Plus, compelling proposition, HBO Max in its own way. So it doesn't really surprise me, but I will say, there will always be the people who will stick with their cable or their satellite services for sure. But
for a long time, yeah.
If education for a long time, but if there's enough draw from these different services, it's kind of a matter of time, especially as people get older and the Gen Z or millennial people get jobs and they get money and they can spend stuff on services. It really doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's funny, Brian. You mentioned the cable companies for a long time saying like, no, there's no cord cutting, because they were buying time. They knew that they needed to keep the investors happy, keep people from mass exodusing cable while they built their strategy to maximize profits out of the internet, because they knew the internet was going to be the place where they would make the money in the future. There is, I don't think, a single cable company of any size in the United States that doesn't also operate an internet service provider. What's fascinating to me is you look at these new streaming services, and yes, part of this is to say, okay, if cable networks are going away or being reduced, even if they're available through services like YouTube TV, what do we do to get the people who are using the internet for their TV? Well, we make our own service, Disney Plus, HBO Max, etc. Peacock is from the company Comcast that owns both NBC Universal and Comcast, the ISP. HBO Max is from Warner Media, owned by AT&T, which is both a mobile and landline internet service provider. Disney actually doesn't have an ISP, but they are going to provide technology in a different way through the back-end services. Maybe that's their way of taking advantage of the internet. I look at Verizon, which has content, but not TV content. It has, of course, Engadget, TechCrunch, etc., Yahoo. And I wonder, are they going to want more? Are they going to go out and buy, say, Viacom CBS, if National Amusements would ever even consider that? I don't know, but I would look for a little more consolidation here to come.
I don't think you're wrong. I do find it weird because we're here because there was an extended period where the people who own the means of distribution, it made sense for them to create their own originals, similar to Netflix, right? It's like, we'll make our own originals so we don't have to worry about arguments or whatever. You would never build that from the ground up that way. Like, you would never marry a phone company. You would never, if somebody said, I have a story to tell, you wouldn't immediately say, great, let's find a telephone company to pay for it. Like, I wonder if Verizon has to have a foothold in it. I mean, can't they just be a telephone company?
Well, the question is diversification, right? It's the idea that, okay, we're going to be losing money from the TV side, and maybe that's why Verizon isn't as worried, is because their TV side was never as profitable as the telephone and internet side. We're definitely already losing money from the telephone side, and the internet's going to make it up. So how do we diversify to capture more of that money that the internet enables? If we're making people use the internet because we provide such great internet, can't we also own some companies that make money on the internet? And so that's what you see them all do.
It's a little bit like the toll road company saying, all right, we need to buy McDonald's and open franchises so people drive less on our roads and get to the destinations that they want faster.
No, it's more like we own the turnpike. And we know we have all these cars on the road. How can we get even more money? Well, they will only handle rises in prices on the turnpike fee for so long. What if we opened restaurants along the turnpike?
Yeah, or what if we sold ads along the turnpike?
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there is something to that. That's if you have the means of attention and you understand that attention is a currency, then yeah, you would sell it yourself because that would be more efficient.
We're going to try to, it's not necessarily we're trying to keep them on our internet.
Right.
It's just, again, it's diversification. It's saying, well, if ISPs ever do become truly dumb pipes and there's just no maximum revenue, we could spin that off, but we'll have this other thing that is where you really make the money on the internet.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole? Do you cry Verizon tears for them having a lack of a foothold in the media space?
I was just thinking about this. Like, the fact that Comcast is in this, and Warner Media, as you mentioned, is owning both the pipeline and the content production. It really makes me wonder, like, is it a matter of time before Amazon does an ISP something, or Netflix, if they have enough money? Like, I wonder, because Amazon, they own a whole bunch of stuff that's not just video. Yeah. They have the retail, they have groceries. So, why not?
That's
right?
a really good point. I mean, Google does this. Google is an ISP.
Yeah.
Both wireless through Google Fi and through Google Fiber wired, and they operate content through YouTube and YouTube TV.
Actually, it's not that crazy an idea, considering that Amazon owns a space company, and we're already seeing SpaceX release Starlink all over the world. Why wouldn't
wait a
they
minute, though. I don't think Blue Origin and Amazon are combined in any way, are they?
Oh, well, I mean, they're both owned by Jeff Bezos, aren't they?
Yeah, but yeah. I don't think Amazon is involved in Blue Origin.
Okay. My guess is it won't be hard for them to partner. My guess is they know a guy.
Correct. Yeah.
They know a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
folks,
but you mentioned Google. Yeah, so that's great.
We've solved it all for all of them. You can thank us later, AT&T and Verizon. All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance. The Parks and Rec special is now available on Hulu. It premiered live on NBC April 30th. All the main characters and a good number of the recurring ones made an appearance in a show that took place over a fictional video conferencing app as the people of Pawnee, Indiana, tried to keep in touch over a phone tree. I watched this live. I don't know when the last time I have watched a thing that was happening live that wasn't sports was. I guess I tuned into that concert for the World not that long ago, but I really was in the other room making kimchi at the time. So this is one where I sat down and paid attention for a half an hour, and I really enjoyed it. Did you guys watch this? Did you care? Did you?
I did not, just because I heard you guys were talking in code about how the ending of Parks and Rec left a question mark, and you were wondering how they would resolve it in this. And
the final season has a conceit that would be weird if you
Yeah, so
Maybe
I
instead.
figured, well, it'll be around for us later. Were they raising money for something during this, or it was just
They did. They had a sort of an advertisement during their commercial breaks promoting a food thing, and there were a couple of appeals directly from the folks in the show, but not as part of the plot line.
Got it.
And the plot line was fairly benign, didn't you think, Bryce?
I actually did not watch it. I didn't watch it yet because I didn't know when it came out, and then I checked Hulu and it still wasn't out, and so I still haven't seen it yet. I hope I want to though. But it is out Hulu now, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody
was
said
it
it's
good?
also available on YouTube as well.
Yeah. Did you like it, Tom? I mean, how'd you feel?
I did. It played very safe. It takes place in 2020, right? So it doesn't disrupt any timelines from the main show or anything like that. They did a little dance to explain why several couples in the show aren't in the same shot with each other. For the most part, I thought they were pretty funny. And it was just great to see all these characters. I mean, they brought back, I knew I would see all the main folks, but they brought back a bunch of the recurrings that I wasn't expecting to see, like the dentist, the lawyer, and all that kind of stuff. So that was good. They even had a few fake commercials to kind of bring in some of those people.
That is one thing that I definitely won't get is not knowing who's going to be on it, because that's a gift you can only wrap for yourself by watching it live.
True. Although I'm not naming names. So Disney announced that Taika Waititi will direct a new Star Wars feature film for theatrical release and co-write it with Christy Wilson Cairns, who co-wrote 1917 with Sam Mendes. How do we feel?
Oh my God.
Yay!
How can we not be
Yay!
thrilled? I mean, Taika Waititi can do no wrong. But unfortunately, you know what? This is interesting because lately, Mandalorian notwithstanding, Taika Waititi can do no wrong and Star Wars can do no right of late. So if anyone can save it, it'll be Taika Waititi.
Well,
but that's going to be a heavy load for Taika Waititi to bear.
I know Jon Favreau was the showrunner, but Taika Waititi also involved in The Mandalorian.
I believe he directed an episode or two.
He did,
and of course,
he
played the IG unit.
He played
one of the
Yeah.
droids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
I accepted Mandalorian. That was my caveat.
Well, but I think that just shows that you're right. Like and therefore they're like, oh, Taika Waititi is the magic sauce that we will put on this to make everything better.
Fingers crossed.
I'm so excited. Like, based on his work in the Mandalorian and Ragnarok, like, yes. Show it to me now.
Pop TV's One Day at a Time is going to do a special, but this one will be animated. One Day at a Time executive producer and co-showrunner Gloria Calderon-Kellett's husband is a cartoonist. I don't think he's doing the animation, but he kind of helped foment the idea. In the show, Penelope's family is coming to visit, and they're worried about arguing over politics. So the episode consists of the Alvarez family figuring out strategies to get through it all, illustrated by fantasy sequences of what might happen. And this is an episode that had already been planned as a live-action special, and it would not have been able to be shot, but they've decided to just go ahead and do it as an animated show. And they had their mid-season finale. They're on hiatus, but this episode will air in the spring, in the middle of that hiatus.
This is coming to fruition, your exact prediction, Tom, of
everything's going to be animated.
Yeah. Now, I know, Bryce, you're a fan of this show. Does it affect it one way or the other to be animated?
No, because I haven't watched it since the transition over to Pop. I don't know where I would watch it, and it's not a show I would buy the season pass for. I would like to watch it on a streaming service, and it sounds fun. I certainly would like an excuse to see what this new first half of a season and this new special would be. Sure.
Nicole, did you ever watch One Day at a Time, the new one?
Not the new one, but I do know about Pop TV, but I don't know anything about the animation one.
The closest thing I could think of to this is I did watch the latest season of Trailer Park Boys, which was animated, and they set up a theatrical conceit, which I guess the last live-action Trailer Park Boys ended with them all eating too many mushrooms to hide them from the cops. And so the first episode, they're like, "Oh my God, we're tripping really hard. We're like cartoons." And then by the second episode, they never mentioned it again. They're like, "Just go with it." And the heart of what I enjoyed about that show was alive and well. So I would imagine that once you get over the novelty of it, it would be just fine.
And like Community did animated, they did like a claymation episode.
Yeah.
Like I think there's enough press. I don't think anyone will be surprised or shocked by this unless it's for some reason 90 minutes or something crazy like that.
Sure.
I was just checking. It looks like One Day at a Time is available on Fubo TV, which you'd have to subscribe to. It's a streaming service that gives you multiple channels. But I guess it's not, you can't buy it on like Google Play, iTunes, etc. You can't buy a season? Is that, it's not showing up here, so I'm guessing the answer is no.
Really?
You probably looked.
I've never bothered to look. I know that other pop TV shows like Schitt's Creek and
Oh, well, there you go. Then.
but I don't know. I haven't looked, and it like once it left Netflix, it kind of left my headspace, you know.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. Amazon released the trailer for season 2 of Homecoming. The new season stars Janelle Monáe as an amnesiac searching for her identity. Stephen James and Hong Chow reprised their roles from the first season, while Chris Cooper and Joe Cusack joined the cast as well. Coming to Prime Video May 22nd.
Man, what a weird first season Homecoming was, because I spent the whole time not enjoying it, and the second was over, I was like, I loved this. I thought it was great. It was really weird.
Mm. And Janelle Monáe is great. Nicole, did you see Homecoming yet?
No, I mean, I love Janelle Monáe, but I haven't seen this one. No.
And HBO has a trailer out for Lovecraft Country, a series based on the novel of the same name by Matt Ruff. It is about a black science fiction fan and veteran of the Korean War searching for his father in rural Massachusetts after his father has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Lovecraft Country coming to HBO in August.
Is this like intentionally H.P. Lovecraft related or just vaguely?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The idea is that there are Lovecraftian monsters in this area of Massachusetts.
Yeah, because in the graphic novel of Lock and Key, Lovecraft just happened to be the name of the city, but had no other relation.
Yeah, no, this is a little. I've read the book actually. We read it for Sword and Laser, and it's a direct reference to H.P. Lovecraft for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It looks fun. Got some other notes here. HBO has renewed Issa Rae's Insecure for a 5th season. Comcast free ad-supported video service Zumo launched a channel called Unidentified, featuring documentaries and indie films from 1091 Media about UFOs and the like. Narrativa, run by Rhianna Pratchett, has reached a deal with Endeavour Content and UK-based producer Motive Pictures to make shows set in Discworld. BBC's making one, but these will be on Channel 4, it looks like. The Beijing International Film Festival has been the latest to go streaming May 1st, running on video streaming platform iQIYI. Quibi posted the first episode of 3 of its series to watch for free on YouTube, on your television. May 15th, CBS will air The Greatest Stay-at-Home Videos, hosted by Cedric the Entertainer. People who allow their videos to be shown can choose a charity that CBS will donate to in exchange for the video. The NFL and Amazon agreed to a multi-year extension for non-exclusive rights to show Thursday Night Football. That extends a current deal. And in addition, Amazon's going to get an exclusive game once a year. The first one in the upcoming season will be on a Saturday. STX Films is developing Fast and Loose, another movie in the Fast and Furious universe. Fast and Loose will be developed with 87 North, the same production label that did Hobbs and Shaw. And ESPN is going to begin showing Korean baseball games. KBO say Yobseo to ESPN. Announcers from ESPN will be calling the games in English, and the season opener airs live in the early morning, May 6th.
Right on. So the stay-at-home videos, I mean, is this essentially a reboot of the idea of America's funniest home videos, basically?
I think it is an existing CBS franchise like that is becoming greatest stay-at-home videos. Yeah.
Smart move. I think a bit tied to the exact moment that we're in, and I don't know how well that's going to age, but I guess that's a decent gamble to take.
Nicole, anything in here catch your eye?
The Beijing Film Festival sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
The iQIYI, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
I was curious if we'd be able to access it, if it would be worldwide or not. That's something I couldn't find out. Yeah. All right, folks, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on, something you've been watching, Nicole, that you want to let folks know about.
Yeah, so what I've been watching, I'll just start off with kind of a shorter piece. I've been watching the Michael Jordan epic 10-episode miniseries, documentary miniseries called The Last Dance. And if you don't know, it's about the 1997-98 Chicago Bulls, and it's about their very sort of last hurrah, their last year. and it features film from a crew that had an all-access pass to the Bulls during that particular season. It's co-produced by ESPN and Netflix, sorry. And I've only watched a few episodes so far, and it's great. Like, it's amazing. It's super in-depth, maybe a little slow at times, but I kind of like those kind of slow documentaries. This is me. But behind the scenes of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, all those greats, and takes you back in time to back in those days. So I thought it was like a really well done documentary. But I really want to shout out is a show I haven't watched yet, but I'm going to watch it. It's called The Half of It. It's a Netflix movie by film creator Alice Wu. Disclaimer, I know her, she's a friend, which is why I want to give it a huge shout out. It's called The Half of It. It's about an Asian American high school girl in the middle of nowhere, kind of an all-white town. And she basically helps this high school jock try to get his crush, in kind of a Cyrano Bergerac, sort of a rethinking of the Cyrano Bergerac story, but in a modern twist with the Asian American lead character, and she's also a lesbian, and I've only watched a little bit of it, which is why I haven't watched the whole thing yet, which is why I'm like, I think it's a really good to see Netflix highlighting these stories from sort of, people of color, and I think it's well worth your time.
That is fantastic. Tom, on my end, I've been making a game of trying to feed my kids classic pop culture. And so I Googled a list of the top 100 sci-fi movies, and I'm just sort of figuring out which ones they haven't seen yet. So I tricked my daughter into watching Moon by Duncan Jones. And then after that, we watched Men in Black, fairly different tones between the two. And then she didn't love either of them as much as she loved Kung Fury, the 20-plus minute short on YouTube, which was fantastic.
That's awesome. I know I mentioned it last week, but I'm going to mention Clone Wars again because it finally had its season finale. In fact, it had 2 episodes. It had the normal episode came out on Friday, and then it had its season finale today, May the 4th, in celebration of May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, Star Wars Day. The last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars are a movie. And they are, if you like the Clone Wars, an exceptional, stellar, amazing, makes you wish that all the prequels would have been like this movie. If you didn't like the Clone Wars that much, I think you'd still probably dig it. It's done differently. The lighting and animation, of course, because it has progressed since the Clone Wars began more than a decade ago, is incredible. And it overlaps with the events of Revenge of the Sith. So you get to see a different perspective about what's happening in the galaxy away from the central action. And I can't say enough good about it. Really love the way they ended the Clone Wars.
I saw the chatter. You were talking on Twitter. Somebody was saying like, is it just me or is this the greatest Star Wars story?
I mean, I don't know that I would call it the greatest Star Wars story, although, I get where people are coming from, but it is certainly one of the tops. Dave Filoni and team did an amazing job. Again, you can get that on Disney Plus. All right. Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, I wanted to give a little bit of an alert for Spoilerin time. So, Rick and Morty is back. Even we reported on it last week, and then we forgot about it. And so there's a new episode of the second half of this 4th season of Rick and Morty that just aired on Sunday. And so it looks like we'll be starting to cover that on Spoilerin time starting this week. Brian and Tom, you guys both saw it. Without getting into spoilers, obviously, kind of, can you give a little bit of a sneak peek of what people might expect on Spoiler Time tonight?
Rick and Morty is always hot and cold. Sometimes it's hotter, sometimes it's colder. Stick around for Spoiler Time to find out why I'm speaking in code.
Oh my goodness, Tom?
This was one of the Rickest and Mortiest Rick and Mortys that ever Rick and Morty.
Wow. All right. So that'll be on Spoiler in Time. Check your podcast directors. And I know we said in the notes that we would do what we do in the shadows this week. We'll probably do that catch up starting next week now that Westworld is finished. So Rick and Morty season 4 is now airing on Adult Swim on Sunday nights. What we do in the shadows is airing on FX Wednesday nights, and it's on Hulu the next day. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, email it to us, cordkillers@gmail.com.
Brian,
Yes, sir.
I want a free solid state drive, please.
Well, I mean, ain't nothing for free, but
I ain't
you could
taking
get one-
nothing.
you could
I'm
get one
taking
for free.
no for an answer.
Look, sooner or later, you're going to need a new computer. Head on over to our friends at doghousesystems.com/v/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout. Get yourself a free SSD. Support the show. Then send us a picture of your amazing new system, like some of our other supporters. Thank you to our friends over at Doghouse Systems.
All right, let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
All right, I also watched this movie this weekend. Chris Hemsworth took to Instagram to thank everyone for making his Netflix movie Extraction the #1 movie on the planet. Netflix says the movie is on course to get 90 million households in its first 4 weeks, becoming its most watched film premiere to date. Joe Russo wrote it. His brother helped produce it. And it is got a lot of really puts the action in Extraction.
Is it good?
I watched it, Brian.
Oh man, what a crazy world where you could declare yourself the #1 movie on the planet with a box office of $0.
They did that with Bright a few years ago, too.
I have to admit, I played Animal Crossing through the entire movie. I probably would have enjoyed it more if I had paid attention.
Oh, that sounds like
It's that
that's
complex
faint
plot
praise.
that was lost on you.
Faint praise.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences will let some movies forego the normal theatrical release requirements this year in order to qualify for consideration for an Oscar. A movie must have been originally scheduled for a theatrical run, so you don't have to have done it. You just have to have meant to have done it. This temporary change will no longer apply once theaters reopen. Even then, the requirement that a release happen in some part of Los Angeles will be widened to include New York City, San Francisco Bay Area, Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta. I don't know. This feels very weaselly to me.
Really? Oh, I think this is fine. I mean,
Whatever,
if they
Academy.
if they were to keep their rules, deserving movies would not qualify because of events outside of their control. So
Yes,
I
but-
think this is a way to say, you know what, we want to keep the rules, but we want to make some very clear exceptions for movies that would have been in the theaters if they could have.
Which unfairly biases the outcome to established large. This is an anti-independent bias that,
Oh,
that'll
I don't
happen.
know. Is it?
Oh, completely.
And maybe
because
I'm wrong. My
a smaller
impression was
company that would do more things last minute is going to likely be ineligible because they didn't happen to have the budget to plan farther in advance for their big marketing blah 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 or whatever. So we
I
don't know
wonder
what
if
would
that's
happen in
true,
the
but-
alternate universe where the pandemic didn't
Yeah,
happen.
see, I'm not thinking that the fallout is that people are like, well, we would have been planning to be in theaters. I think the fallout is all the big studios put their movies in the theaters in December, and if you just said, well, you still have to be in theater, the indies wouldn't be able to get in the theaters later this year because it's going to get crowded. And they're like, well, we would have been in March. That's when we can get in the theaters because we're small. And now we can't. Like, I felt like this was actually favoring the independent movies.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. I'll tell you what, write us at cordkillers@gmail.com. Let us know what you think.
Maybe I'm way off base. Plex announced that it added movies and TV shows from Crackle to its ad-supported streaming service in the U.S. Plex launched the service back in December, and in the announcement said it's working on a new partnership to add further content to the free service. It just keeps adding more stuff.
Yep. And until May 27th, if you sign up for 12 months of HBO Max in advance, you could get it for $11.99 a month, after which it will go back to the normal $14.99. Also, HBO says this is, quote, while supplies last, because they only have limited supplies of this. So they may cut it off before May 27th, aka whenever they feel like it. And HBO Max will now be available automatically for HBO subscribers and not the Google platforms. On the Google platforms.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey man, supply and demand. Supply and demand. Come on. Supply and demand.
Are any of
mean,
you guys going to subscribe to this? I mean, HBO Max was already the same price as HBO, but now this is cheaper. I said I'll do it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you
I'm,
should.
I'm probably paying for however. The problem is
You're paying $15 right now.
But I don't even know how I'm signed up for HBO now. I think
Well, that's my problem, right? I know how I'm signed up, but I'm like, so do I want to go through all the hoops to figure out how to get the discount out of
get a bunch of content?
Do I have to cancel my existing subscription and then go sign up? This is great if you haven't signed up before.
Yep.
But
I don't know.
and-
I wonder because I wasn't I had been a previous subscriber, so I could use my old login. But I would be very surprised having gone through that process if it didn't
That's interesting
automatically
because
realize that.
It's interesting because I subscribe to HBO through Amazon, and I don't know if this is gonna.
Yeah, I think
be
mine is through Apple, which just seems like it's
Yeah,
enough
I
of a
don't-
pain, and I don't know what I want to see on HBO Max.
Yeah,
That's what
fair.
That's what Warner Media is hoping that you won't bother to get this. Yeah, but they'll attract people like Bryson who wouldn't have subscribed otherwise.
Man,
That's
those
the whole-
limited supplies, though.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just. I mean, that's their whole thing is that it's a discount. It's like it's HBO and other stuff, and now that whole same package is now cheaper. So that's
and
that's
honestly,
math. Frankly, that's
the
math.
while supplies last is we figured out how much of a we did math and we figured out how many of these discounts is good for us and how many is too many, and that's when the supply runs out.
Okay.
Also, I didn't want it to get lost that HBO will be now on the Google platform, because that has been one weird thing, is that you didn't automatically get HBO Max if you had HBO, unless the way you were getting HBO was either directly from Warner Media or through a partner that had agreed. So Apple's now agreed. Now Google has agreed. Charter has agreed. Spectrum, I think, has agreed. So it's getting to be more and more as we get closer to May 27th. Hopefully Amazon is one of those for you too, Nicole.
Yeah,
New York
hopefully.
Attorney General Letitia James has asked 7 cable and satellite TV providers to cut or eliminate live sports fees since there are no live sports.
Lies, dude, lies. ESPN The Ocho had a putt-putt tournament. It was apparently very
ESPN
exciting.
just said, we just signed Korean baseball. So take that, Letitia.
gonna
Also,
be
the cable
golf?
companies
Isn't
have
there
already
golf?
said, like, it's not up to us. We pay the networks. If they'll cut the fee that they charge us, then we won't pass it on. Of course, yeah.
Man, I'll watch bowling all day long. There are plenty of
There's
sports
still
out there.
esports.
Yeah, that's right.
There's still
Yeah,
esports.
iRacing. Yeah, totally.
And of course,
No.
Verizon and Viacom CBS's Pluto TV have reached a distribution deal. Pluto's ad-supported free streaming video service will have placement on Verizon's wireless devices, as well as Verizon's Stream TV, Android Player, and pay TV service Fios.
Ah, okay. So here, remember we were talking about Verizon and Viacom CBS?
Yep.
This could be the first step to the future marriage of these two.
Pluto's a
Or it
really
could just be a
strong
partnership.
brand, and I mean, all that makes sense.
All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. Melissa in Lincoln, Nebraska said, my first thought when I heard the jump in Netflix subscribers was, oh, all those people mooching off their friends and family members' Netflix had to get their own accounts. Because of the streaming limits, 4 simultaneous streams on a basic account that Netflix had in place, I can see people bumping up against these in quarantine when it hasn't been a problem before. I'd be interested to know how many of the new subscribers are actually new users.
I'll tell you what, man, we never had 4 simultaneous streams during the school year when everybody was going to school, but we do now. So that totally
Yep.
makes sense.
Definitely, Melissa, good one.
Tim writes in saying, as I smugly listened to an email about the kinds of apps about these kinds of apps in Allison's Airtable database, which she'd previously shared with me, I thought, quote, I'm so glad I found the TV show tracker app on iOS. It does everything that I want perfectly. Cut to this morning, and there was a major update. Now it's called TV Club, and they're basically removing everything or changing everything I love. So yeah, I apologize for not listening to those segments more closely in the past. Could you guys remind me of some of the good apps out there for this? I don't care about watching right from the app or having it in Apple TV. I just want to follow when there's new episodes for me to record or watch.
Yeah, TV Time is one that's really pretty, although it stopped syncing with Tracked for me. And I like to sync with Tracked to keep a cloud version of my watch history. So I'm using TVST, which isn't the prettiest, but it works. Bryce, I know you found one that you like that has a little better user interface.
Yeah, I also use a Tracked API-based app like the ones that you mentioned. I use Watched, WATCHT, and these all run on the Tracked API. So you sign up for Tracked on your computer, and then you log into these apps that other people make, and it hooks into all your stuff. And so, it keeps track of what you're watching, what the next episode you've got to watch. You can tell it when you watch something or when you would like to watch something, and it has a schedule of the shows that are coming up. It's really cool, and you'll have to kind of search around a little for what apps have what features. So like the one that Tom was talking, TVST, has really good like notifications when a show airs, where the Watched app that I have doesn't, or I haven't seen how to do it. So there are a lot of options if you go the tracked route.
Yeah, some of them are better for discovery. Some of them are better for actual like tracking. Nicole, do you use anything to keep track of what you're watching, or you just wing it?
I just wing it.
Yeah.
See, Nicole and I live in the
Living on
Garden
the
of
edge.
Eden. If we're hungry for something, we just look around and we just grab it. Like, that looks good. Gimme.
I do find it's
All
tough
right.
to keep
That's
up with the Watched app, though. You got to really be like, I'm pushing my button.
Yeah. Michael from Dang, if it's warming up in Texas, writes, thank you for using good microphones. I'm watching an NBC sports show where everyone on the show is talking via earbuds, laptop microphones, etc. It sounds awful. Thank you for taking what you do seriously enough to have good audio for your listeners and watchers. Well, thank you, Michael.
To which I say, don't thank us. Thank our patrons at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Exactly. That is it for us. Nicole Lee, thank you so much. Where can folks find more of what you're doing on the web?
You can just go to twitter.com/Nicole or just go to engadget.com where I do all my writings.
Go check it out. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll cord kill you again next time.
No, we'll kill your cords. We won't
Kill
do
your
anything to you.
cords.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.